Let's all stand. Let's pray. Father God, Lord, we come this evening thanking you, Lord, for your blessings, grace, and mercy in blessing us to see this day. Lord, we thank you for all the provisions that you provide. We thank you for our nation, our state. And Lord, we thank you for our democratic government process. We ask now, Lord, that you be with us and guide us and direct us through this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, our first order of business tonight, call our meeting to order. Our first order will be adjustment to the agenda. It looks like that we need to, under item 7, new business, we need to make some adjustments there. We need to make item 10, RPO request for resolution. Item 11 would be RC&D operation discussion. And the previous item 10, we'd like to renumber that to item 12, recognition of service. There's been one other adjustment that was asked to be made under item 4. Making item C, we had worded.
What do I come up there?
No. We'll let you know when the time comes. All right, we made those adjustments. We need a motion to approve the agenda as adjusted.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, nay. All right, our first item would be our delegations, our citizens' comments, and Mr. Earl Roundtree.
I got a few, I don't want to take a lot of time for y'all because I don't know if all these people got to do something tonight and want to get home. But I have a couple little trivia things, and I want to thank, well, 3 of y'all I think were on board. I don't think Linda and Billy when y'all approved and we did the FJ Atwood thing. And I don't know whether or not y'all as commissioners do, but it's been almost 2 years, and people are still commenting to me about that, Jack. And but something happened, Henry. This is you're the first on the video. Thursday afternoon, I was getting ready to go to the drugstore. I left the house. I forgot something. I went back into the house. The phone had rang. My wife had answered it, but it was no ID on it. She don't usually answer it, but she gave me the phone. The lady called me from, I don't know, I've got to think how to pronounce that word. Wisconsin, I can pronounce. Town in Wisconsin. And she talked about 45 minutes. Now, why she called me, she was calling me about the FJ Atwood recognition. And she had found out about it, and she was real interested in it and wanted to contribute to it. And I told her, well, it wasn't any contributing to do. We had already done all that. And she said, well, what did you do? Did you have any money to contribute? I said, yeah. I said, it was about $800 left over and went to the Wounded Warriors in his honor. She said, well, I'm going to send a check to the Wounded Warriors. And she talked about 45 minutes. And finally, I said, well, I got to leave, go to the drugstore. I kept looking at the clock. But I said, how in the world did you find me in Sunbury, North Carolina, and knew I had anything to do with it? And she said, well, I was searching the internet and your name came up with a telephone number. Well, watch yourself, Henry. But it popped in my mind that I had a video of our meeting. The reason I brought it up was, Henry presented it and he was standing up there. So his picture, about 2 days from now, being in Wisconsin, she said she was going to put it on the internet up there. So you and I are going to be famous in Wisconsin, Henry. Just a little trivia. Kenny, I don't know if this is officially your last meeting or the first Monday is.
I think this is probably it.
Because I know they usually swear in.
Because in December, I will be sitting on that side of the table out there to see.
They won't even let you go up there.
To see the next person sworn.
Sworn in. Well, it's hard to find people to serve, and we don't always agree, and sometimes we disagree, but it's really hard to get people to serve, and I appreciate your doing this, but I want to real quickly to say that I made a mistake. 2 years ago, you were sitting down that way somewhere, and I told you I was retiring from politics. The 60
And I
years.
told you then you would be back.
And that's right. Well, I'm going to explain that tonight real quickly. I went home and pulled out my records, and I found out that I had made a mistake. And this is my 60th year, and so you and I are going to retire together. Jack Owens, I want to take a minute to comment on you, if I could, because you did something at the last commissioner meeting that I was so glad that you did. Jennifer Bazemore was here with a concern of hers, and I'm sure, it was very important to her that she wouldn't have come. And brother, and you sat there and did an excellent job of explaining what you had done and the commissioners had done. And at least you answered her and talked to her and explained what you were doing. And I was real proud that you did that. And also was proud of the fact that sometimes that people go over here and have an opinion. But if you stick with a bad opinion and don't have guts enough to change, then that's no character to me. You show character to me when you look at the situation and revisit it and say, well, maybe I made a little mistake and I'm willing to compromise or go another way. And I wanted to, without going any further, Jack, I was glad to see that you're a man of character, in my opinion on that. One thing y'all got, I don't know if you got your emails, but while I was here tonight, I have put up and talked for 3 years. And I don't know why, other than I was told it was because it was me, that we can't get online banking in our water and tax department system so that I can pay my bills to the county the same way that I pay Verizon, CenturyLink, Dominion Resource, and then others. Now, if you don't use online banking, you might not even know what I'm talking about. But it is so simple that a caveman can do it. And I get up in the morning and I turn my computer on with my gallon of coffee, and these little bills pop up on email. I switch over to First Citizens, and I pay my bills. I don't have no stamps. When I hit submit, that money comes to the county. I'm finished paying for it. And there has been one excuse or one reason for 3 years right after this. And I sent y'all an email and I'm requesting either do it or say you're not going to do it. But don't keep putting this thing off. It's simple. It works. It's the future. It's not like we're going into the past. It's the future. And I don't see why we can't go with it. None of the excuses that I've heard were reasons. I want y'all to do what you want to do with it, but I want an answer on this thing because I'm tired of messing with it because this is my 60th year. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. Sandy, you want to comment on the online banking?
I would love to. Earl, I wish you had called me because I'd have told you.
You might come in.
Yeah, no. Good evening. I've got my copy. Thank you. We've actually been working on it's called an AR box, which is the electronic payments, probably about 1.5 years. We've had to get quotes, get information. find different vendors and figure out how the process worked. It's not so simple a caveman can do it, I can promise you. Once we got the quotes together, we also incorporated those into the budget. It was something that, there was a good deal of expense up front and we couldn't jump into it. We had to put it in this year's budget. You all approved it back in the spring, so it is in the budget this year. And since July, Diane and I have spent countless hours working with different vendors to coordinate. It has to go through our billing department, it has to go through the company we use for billing, through our bank, through a third-party vendor, through our financial software. There's numerous parties involved. We hope to have it in place by December or January. At this point, we're hammering out the details on the contract. The vendor seems to think that they should have absolutely no responsibility for anything that goes on, so we're working on those details. Diane has worked to hammer out all the details as far as how it will work to import it into our system so that we don't have to manually enter everything, and she's got most of that worked out. They have weekly conference calls, and again, this has been going on since the beginning of July, once we got into this budget year. So we're close. We're hoping by December or January to have it in place and have it up and running. You all also approved a lockbox at that time, which is where the payments will be mailed to a different lockbox and opened by a third-party vendor. And we're at about the same place with that. She's also had weekly conference calls and spent countless hours trying to get those details lined up. And that we're hoping to have go out with the new payment address on the December bills, the ones that go out at the end of December. Again, we're having contract issues, the same thing there. They have sole access to the lockbox and the post office box, but they want to be held harmless for anything that might have happened, and we're negotiating, obviously, with that. Hopefully, we can have those contracts back and get them to PIP soon, maybe by the end of the month or early next month, and get everything in place.
Okay. All right, hopefully by the beginning of the year or mid-year, January, we should have it in place.
Yeah, we hope so. Again, a lot of it right now is hinging on those contracts. We've sent them back with the concerns that we have, and it's taken them a while to get back to us. Both of them are out there. We're waiting for those to come back. I think everything else is pretty much in place. It's just a matter of getting that done. And then, of course, when it comes back, it's got to go to PIT's office. So we hope to have it in place. And it's been a very, very trying, time-consuming process, but we think we've got it all hammered out.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
The AR box,
Yes.
how does that difference from the automatic bank draft?
The AR box is when you go online, like Earl said, when you go to your bill payment system online, if we have an AR box set up, they can electronically transfer the money to our account. If we don't, like now, if you go online to do that through bill pay, they actually cut a check and mail it to us. The automatic bank draft is where we are set up for each month. When your bill goes out, we'll create a draft to pull that directly from a bank account, and there's no effort or no initiation needed from the customer's part. That's an automatic draft. That and the credit cards and debit cards are something that we're hoping to look at doing maybe next fiscal year. Diane's working with different vendors to get some quotes for that and get some information on that, and hope to incorporate that in our budget request for next year.
Sandy, you may not know this, but the update is at the Commissioner's table tonight. Natalie provides.
Yes, sir, and that was emailed to you all last week, yes. And I've got that printed in front of me too. I think you have the information, but I know it was a lot to absorb.
Anyone else? Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome.
Good timing on our report.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I want to clear up something. I think Sandy misunderstood me when I said a caveman could do it. I wasn't talking about from her end, I'm talking about from the dummies in me. And I'm going mine. And she made, I didn't know, well, I knew that was a problem. And of course, I have a little bit of problem here, but I'm not going to get into it about it had to be in the budget, because I see y'all spend $30,000, I think, at the last meeting. And I mean, it's not that much of money, and I'm sure you can find that money if you need to. But I wasn't talking about your end, I was talking about my end. I'm the dumb end.
Thank you. Okay. Our next item would be the Chorley Tribe representative.
I want to,
Take your name.
my name is Doug Patterson. I'm one of the council people for the Chono Tribe. And I'd just like to thank you for giving us this opportunity today to speak before you. What I would like to talk about is a lot of the projects that we have planned for the county. I would like to go over the dedication that we just had, and thank you for coming out for that. But what we want to do is essentially become partners with the county in a lot of different initiatives and things that we have planned. We would like to bring tourism to the county. We would like to have cultural activities out on the property, and basically to help bring more knowledge about the tribe to everybody in the county and outside of the county, and you know, possibly even get to the point where we're actually hiring people in the county to do things out there. The Chowanoke history it's a pretty unique history in Gates County, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard a lot about the Indians that are here and were here, the reservation that was currently in I guess it would be the southern part of the county there. But the people have basically been a fabric of this county for a couple centuries now. And a lot of people here still have a lot of, you still have a lot of people with Chowanoke ancestry, a lot of people in the county. And one of the families in particular that's been part of the history of the Chowanokes has been actually the Godwin family. They were instrumental in a lot of things with the Chowanoke for a long time, including locating where they think that the first Indian school was. I think it was the Godwin that did that. They actually had a newspaper article concerning that. And the Godwin family, some of the attorneys, they actually helped some of the Chowanoke people apply for Cherokee funds in the early 1900s. But another thing that we are trying to seek today is to perhaps get either a resolution or a proclamation from the county in recognition of the tribe. And we drew up some ideas of how something like that would look. And she could bring it up and pass it to you. It's pretty interesting history. And there was even some research that was done from the Smithsonian here in the early 1900s, where they came down and they talked to a lot of the prominent leaders in the county concerning the Indian ancestry of the people that were here. And basically, with that being said, I'm here to answer any questions or concerns that you may have.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think it was a great recognition, letting us know the county, who the Chowanoke tribe was and what they meant to the county. But also, Mr. Belton was there at that, Commissioner Belton was there also. So I want to make sure we're aware of that.
Okay.
But we'll take a look at this
Okay.
as a board and certainly see what the legalities are, and we can get back with you on what we can do as far as proclamation or just resolution.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Well, I for one, Mr. Chairman, would like to maybe see if we can get some of our high school students in the meantime to look in some records and do a little bit more history to find out where the Indian school was and things like that, and maybe involve them. And maybe even have somebody come and make a report for the board. You know, something
That would be
like
great.
Just a simple idea.
That'd be great.
But yeah, I think that would be really interesting. Ms. Hoffman, do you have anything?
Well,
Your
I
school?
think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find a school than that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm sure you've gone to St. Paul's because they have the minutes of St. Paul's, and that the Society for the Propagation of the Gospel was the missionaries that came out here to establish the school. And so there is some information in the minutes there, and there's some copies of the minutes books. I mean, they're just scattered pieces of papers, but it gives you some of the names of the ministers, and Washburn, of course, was the one that had the school. The problem with the location is never really fixed. It says Surrey, and Surrey, you know, we think of Surrey as a community up there near Rooks Road. But Surrey Creek is a different location. And most people think the school probably was near the creek because of where the reservation was. The reservation was between Catherine's Creek and Bennett's Creek. That was the 12 square miles. And then it has, over the years, you know, the Robbins sold off land, the Bennetts sold off some land, and it's recorded in the deeds in the Register of Deeds office. You know, these were Cholonoke Indians. And, but locating the school, now, Mr. A.P. Godwin had a newspaper article in the Greensboro paper.
Correct.
And he was supposed to have given a speech somewhere about the school. Do you have a copy of that speech?
I do, and interestingly enough, I had a lady from Pennsylvania email me about the school. She was very interested because she had some ancestors and she wanted to know more history about it. And I've talked to Commissioner Felton about what he knew in his survey about where the actual school location might have been. My uncle's article, I wasn't, of course, I was very young when he wrote that, so I'm not familiar with the exact location of where the school is. I'm like you, I know where it's supposed to be, but I don't know if anybody's
And he said that, I think he said he found some brick foundations,
Yes.
If I recall the article correctly. And certainly we would love to find it and get a historical marker. It is the second school in the colony of North Carolina. The only thing that would predate it is the one in Pasquotank that Griffin started. So it would be a major find.
Sounds like something we want to proceed with and try to some type of collaboration. All right. Well,
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
We'll get back to you. Thank you. Okay, our next item will be Mr. William Brett.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. I gave each one of you guys an individual packet pertaining to what's going on with the corruption within the sheriff's department and this situation here. Now, by court order, because there's a court order against me stating indirect or direct contact with this individual would put me under the severity of being arrested. All right, so hence being now because somebody informed the individuals that gave the reports on them. So they'll be here to stifle me from saying what I have to say. All right, so I'll rather meet with you, the boards, individually. That way there would be no playing these little games. Because if I was to mention their name or proceed with these proceedings, I could go to jail now. We have appealed this situation that I was charged with. I was charged with something that I did not do. And the reason why I was charged with this is to stifle me from keep on putting pressure about the stuff that's going on within this county. All right. So the problem being is my reputation has been destroyed. My name has been destroyed. I've got a clean reputation. All right. I come from a very good family with an excellent reputation. We decided to open a business in Gates County. All right, my brother was brutally murdered back in 2011. Instead of leaving the property vacant, my mother and I discussed it, and we decided to open up this business. Hence, for putting money aside for the whereabouts of my brother's remains from the guy who murdered him. All right, well, unfortunately, I've run into this situation with the corruption within this county, with the sheriff's department, with stuff that, me being harassed, me being a bunch of other stuff going on. So I refuse to go over there and mention anybody's name. All right? And as you see, the deputies over here waiting now. So it's a situation where, as you see, it's looking to be intimidation. And I want to go on record. I'll rather meet with you guys individually.
All right.
I mean, each one of you guys got a package of what's going on.
All right, we've gotten the package, and, you know, I would just say that the avenues that you proceeded with in going to the sheriff and then going to the DA would seem to be the legal procedures that you should take.
I'm also working with 3 senators right now, also got another senator involved as of today, about changing the laws pertaining to absolute power of the sheriff's department. The district attorney is the only one to open up an investigation pertaining to any kind of police corruption. All right, so going through these challenges, we're trying to propose a bill of changing these laws.
But, all right, we thank you for your comments, but I think the proceedings that you're going through, there's the proper procedures. We don't really have any control over what the sheriff's department does other than their budget. And so, I mean, I would prefer that you probably talk to an attorney on, you know, how to move forward on this.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, our next item would be item 6, old business. We have personnel board recommendations. Please, the first one, you want to, manager?
Yes, sir. Before you have a full-time building inspector, this job description now incorporates the position of what we currently have as a fire marshal. The changes throughout under work functions, employment standards, and education and experience all include knowledge of fire safety inspections and how to monitor items related to fire safety. We are requesting that you please approve that. The Personnel Board did review this at the beginning of November, and they did recommend that this position be established. We currently have this listed as a part-time building inspector without fire marshal duties, but we do wish to include it now as a full-time position with fire duties.
I believe the other part of that is we have someone that can qualify for that.
Correct. We did advertise for a part-time building inspector. We've had someone who does have the fire level 1 certification through the Department of Insurance who is interested in this position. So we're requesting that this become a full-time position.
And really, I'm on the personnel board with Commissioner Jordan. We're taking 2 part-times and making them 1 full-time.
Correct.
I think I did read in there that in about 18 months, a person could have the other needed skills,
Yes.
certifications.
Yes. Department of Insurance has already reviewed their credentials and said that, as outlined in here, they have up to 2 years, but that they will more than likely be able to sit for the test within 18 months.
This person will be working under Edgar, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we need the board to approve the creation of this position of inspector with the fire marshal qualifications.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we do so on recommendation of the Personnel Board.
I'll second that.
There's a motion second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay. You have anything else? Next item is a resolution to recognize Mr. Milton J. Wiggins on his 100th birthday. In the last year or so, at least several years, the board has been recognizing our century-old citizens on their birthdays, and some have exceeded 100 we didn't catch. We've gone back and recognized them for being able to attain 100 years of age. But Mr. Wiggins will celebrate his birthday on the 29th of November, and we've sent him a standard letter. And we've also, in the past, sent a resolution, and we want to do that for him as well. And I plan to be there and present it, and any of the other commissioners who want to be there would be good as well. But the resolution reads, resolution to recognize Mr. Milton J. Wiggins on his 100th birthday. whereas Mr. Milton J. Wiggins was born on November 19, 1914, and whereas Mr. Milton J. Wiggins will be celebrating his 100th birthday on November 19, 2014, and whereas Mr. Milton Wiggins attends church and is a member of St. John A. of Zion Church in Sunbury, and whereas Mr. Milton J. Wiggins and his family will be celebrating his birthday on November 29th at T.S. Cooper Elementary School, now therefore be it resolved that the Gates County Board of Commissioners wishes to extend Mr. Milton J. Wiggins and his family a very happy 100th birthday, the 17th day of November 2014. Board of Commissioners on behalf, signed by the Chairman, Henry Jordan.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yes, we need a motion.
I make so move that we recognize Mr. Williams.
Second. All right, it's motion second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Right. It has been brought to my attention that we have another century old citizen in the county, actually 109, 5, I believe it was Shirley Easton's mother-in-law, and she passed away, when was it? Yesterday. So we do recognize her, and our sympathies go out to the family. All right, our next item would be our update from our engineers, Municipal Engineering Corporation.
Good evening. Mike McAllister, Municipal Engineering. Just want to bring you up to date on where we are. Of course, you know, the last time we met, I think we told you we had a reduced amount of flow that was available because of the soil conditions. And you asked if we go ahead and proceed and do deep wells and water balance, and we've done that, and it turns out that we've got conditions that are somewhat worse than we thought. And it looks like about 7.5 acres of the 14.5 that was available for spray is about all we got available. And we're down to about, 1,700 gallons a day, and only about 5 months out of the year we spray on the soil. And I've got Don Wells, who's our soil scientist. He's here tonight. He can answer any questions about the soil conditions and exactly what that means and how we came to those conclusions. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Well, first of all, we started out with an anticipation of, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40,000 gallons per day. The second assessment analogy after you did some testing,
Yes,
I think we were looking at from approximately 10, 15,000.
that's correct.
So what are we talking about now?
So now you're down below 3,000 gallons per day, which,
From 10 to 15.
yeah, and it's only about 7.5 acres that you can actually spray. So we can, and we're at the level now, it's not making a lot of sense to continue on this site.
So basically, a recommendation would be
We need to find
an
some site.
alternative.
Yes.
Alternative site altogether.
Yes, sir.
Well, the thing about it is, you know, that's on the north soil. And I did a little research. I had one of the farmers in Gates County come by and give me some home training a few years ago on using the United States Department of Agricultural Land Soil Survey analysis. And basically, you know, we've only got basically from the north, Bladen, we got some Goldberg. The soils are basically consistent throughout Gates County.
Right.
And,
Goldsboro is the one that we can spray.
Which one?
The Goldsboro.
Well, and you don't have that much Goldberg.
You got it.
Basically, in this area, we're talking mostly Lenore, Craven, and you've got some Windsor,
Some blatant.
right, and Bladen. But, you know, what if we give, you know, we give you another area? This is our third area that we've gone to look for a spray field. And, you know, each one, we get an opinion and say, well, what do we think about this one? Well, there's a possibility. And we go down this road, But then at some point, we need some kind of guidance that we can rely on.
Well, let me ask our soil scientist to, maybe he can sort of shed some light on the soil surveys and how that relates to what he's doing. And he can probably answer your questions much better than I can.
Because what I'm basically saying is we've got another 50 acres, but it's the north. You've got the north right now you're testing. So, soil scientists, why is this manure over here? If we employ you to test this, why is this over here is going to be any different than what we just did?
Yes, my name's Don Wells, the Soil and Environmental Consultants. And I hear your question, and I do understand conceptually, the soils in Berkeley County, Gates County, get into Northampton, this whole geographic area is formed on coastal plain sediments, and you do have a lot of wet conditions. A lot of these farm fields, they have ditches, they have large canals. You get a rainfall event, the water has to shed away fairly quickly. When you get landscape positions like we have in those farm fields, where you don't have the drainage, the water sits there long enough. So from a whole geographic dynamic area, you have to constantly battle trying to add water with getting rid of water. Now back to your question of, will one Lenore soil type work better than another? The answer is, if it's truly Lenore, utilizing the current state rules and regulations, then no sir, it will not. The soils at this particular site, the Lenore, the seasonal high water table is roughly 15 inches from the top of the ground. To meet current regulations, you have to have 12 inches of separation. It's only that far from being unsuitable. The unsuitable areas have less than 12 inches to that soil wetness condition. The Lenore soils in question, it's really more the deeper part of it. It's the subsoil. It's a very tight clay. And as you kind of dig through that clay, what you try to look for is to see, do the soils change with depth? And do they get sandier as you go down 3 feet, 4 feet, or 5, or 10, or 20? And so at this particular site, it's very stratified marine sediments. You get some layers of sand and layers of clay. Essentially, the drainage is all lateral. In other words, this past July when we were out there working, you get a big rainfall event that would come through in typical summertime thunderstorms. 2-3 days later, you still have standing water on top of the ground. And this is in July. On this site, you got standing water 3 days after a rainfall event in July. Now again, the soil conditions directly relate on the vertical permeability and then the runoff. But again, when you have to look at the state regulations, farmers use drainage ditches to get the surface water to drain away so they can get their equipment in there. Well, for spray systems, you have to buffer those drainage ditches a fairly significant distance based on the level of treatment. So essentially, you lose that effective ability to drain a site with drainage ditches and also irrigate, unless you have a tremendous large area. And then you can kind of work your spray fields in and around the drainage ditches and the property line setbacks. So with that, again, the Lenore soils, would I expect one to be different from the other? No, sir, I would not. The other question is how can we manage a site to where the property line setbacks and drainage ditches offer effective areas to irrigate. And more specifically, if we can get into the Goldsboro or the Norfolk type soils, you talk about farmers, a lot of talk about having a great tobacco land because it's fairly dry. And then some of them have their corn land because it holds more water. Well, the dry land is more conducive to irrigate, obviously, because that's what you're trying to do. When you're not dealing with rainfall or you're not dealing with saturated conditions, you're trying to irrigate this water. And so you have to balance that out. The multiple steps that you have to do to evaluate a site is pretty extensive from the state's approach to this, and it is all related to the gallons per day. When we first got involved and we did our initial soils work, I kind of relayed my opinion at that time of the feasibility of the site. And of course, Mike passed that information along. When you do these additional testing, you're doing the deep wells, seeing where groundwater is, seeing how fast groundwater recovers. You do the numerical water balance. It kind of gives you an idea of average rainfall, average temperature. When you look at the amount that the state will allow you to irrigate, that's when the numeric numbers come back and say, well, you can only irrigate 1,700 gallons a day on the 7 acres. And again, the economics of it from the engineering side doesn't support it.
So your recommendation going to Dino would be approximately 1,700 gallons per day?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, because under the current procedures in the water balance calculations, the state allows 10% of the drainage rate of the soils, and that Lenore soil has a very, very low permeability rate. If you look at that clay, it's almost like a pottery clay. It's a very tight clay. And you have to use 10% of the amount of water that can vertically drain through that soil. And so that number is what goes into the water balance.
Now, some of that out there was Craven as well. A little bit of Craven, Lenore. Now, where we currently have our spray field, that's Craven.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that was done a number of years ago. So even if you tested that today, that could probably have some issues as well.
Yes, sir. The state implemented the 2T regulations, which govern applications of spray systems. In the 2T regulations, they come up with new policies, new procedures, new testing methods, and all of the previous systems that I've even evaluated and permitted prior to these regulations are extremely difficult to get permitted now. And it's always a struggle to get something, especially when you have soils that are fundamentally wet.
Our current septic system and spray field, you say you are familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with the current one, but I'm familiar with Craven soils and Lenore soils.
And Mike, it is Craven soil?
It is.
Majority there. I know that has actually been downgraded for, and we know the reasons why. Are we in jeopardy with the current system when, does it come up for some type of evaluation down the road, just random evaluation, like 5-year check or 10-year check? Is that going to occur?
I think they probably have downgraded about all they're going to. And I think Kevin has done a pretty good job of trying to remediate that site as best he could, considering how it had been treated in the past 10, 15 years. That system was originally permitted in 1988. The rules then were much different when it was permitted for 25,000 gallons a day. And, typically, unless you're going to try to increase the flow, usually they'll let it go. but they will downgrade it, which they already have. But a lot of that downgrade that you saw were from not only the soils getting saturated, but you also had some areas around the perimeter of the site that where the water actually ran off into the woods and out toward the creek.
As far as saying there's a 5-year inspection or 10-year inspection, that we're not going to be subjected to that unless we made application for it.
Well, unless there's an obvious problem.
Oh,
They
yes.
see the water shutting off. And I think that's what the downgrade was about. Like I said, it was an obvious ponding of water. The first time I visited the site, the ground was super saturated. It was just like walking on a sponge. And you could see where the water had channeled and run off into the woods. And that's primarily why that site got downgraded.
So my next question would be, when we're considering a different location, is there a rule of thumb for, we have sewage here and the lagoon and the system, how far away, is there a rule of thumb for how far you push that before it gets to the lagoon?
I mean, it's just a matter of economics. It goes further away you go, the more capital costs you have.
You have to have a pumping station.
You have to have a pump station. And the further away you go, the horsepower and the power it's going to take to get it over there. So, I mean, that's the major consideration, is just cost, capital cost and overhead cost. Is there a value formula to it? No, it's just basically looking to see what's viable and do the numbers make economic sense.
I guess this is more of a question for the soil scientists. You know, we're looking for ways now. What can we do to get a spray field to serve the needs that we have? So let's say if that same site was landscaped a little different, would you expect different results? I mean, let's say we didn't have ditches, but let's just say that the terrain was a little bit different, whereas the water didn't, because it may be like this, I don't know.
Well, on this particular site, several years ago, there's a lot of logging activity took place in the surrounding woods, and you can see where the maps kind of show where logging trails, there's a big stump pile. So a lot of compaction has taken place on the topsoil without any type of tilling or farming up. So that's one reason why, when you get a big rainfall event, it takes a while for that water just to infiltrate into the topsoil. As far as conceptually, what to do with the current regulations, the more conducive effort is what you call decentralized type wastewater applications. An example, you look at the county, we kind of pick out certain zones where you have high flows, and instead of like every part of the county trying to pump to one area, you kind of decentralize it. This area kind of groups over here, and then you look at some subfields in different locations, and this area might drain over here, and they have subfields. Now again, there's always pros and cons to that, because then you're kind of farther out to the county and the whole maintenance type thing. So there's a variety of options. Level of treatment also plays a part in what you can do with the water. Mike and I talked about going to reuse, and then trying to evaluate the other needs that the county has, that the 2U rules, not the 2T, but the 2U.
You're going to tell us eventually what the T stands for and the U stands for?
It's government legislation. It's just where when they invent new rules, it's just alphabetical. I think back in the day, there were 2L with groundwater.
So let me guess what you're getting ready to say, because I am familiar with this part. You can get the water to a level where farmers can come get it and take it to their farms, right?
Well, yes, sir, and that's part of the 2U when you get into the reuse. We did a lot of work for the city of Raleigh, who has a reclaimed water plant They actually take this processed water and they irrigate it on some of their ag lands, for crop, for soybeans and corn, those kind of productions. So the answer is yes, sir. Those are the things where a lot of communities are going that actually have water resource issues, water quality issues and drinking water issues. But again, there's just a variety of options with the wastewater disposal, but you're still limited on the irrigation when you have naturally wet soils, because the environment is in an equilibrium now. And if you can just kind of, you've lived in this county way, you know more about it than I do, but if you can just kind of picture, if you go down and you see a field and if it's wet, well, you can't irrigate more water on top of that because you'll have runoff like you had at the existing facility. And that's one of those little items where the state can come back and say, well, this is a violation and you got to stop.
Well, I have a question right there.
And yeah, I'll be more happy to talk to each and individually about options, and I know
What I was about to say, it just came back to me. We had originally talked about using a sewage system where we could, well, not a drip system, but we talked about a drip system, but we also talked about the filtration system.
Yes,
And because now what we're doing now is conventional, basically,
that's right.
and which was much cheaper. And the thing about it, we went to that filtration system that we originally talked about,
Reuse water.
reuse water.
Yes.
Water.
What, really, all that does for you is you can shrink the buffer. You still can apply more water to the soil to take. And I actually called Pam Thornburg in the Raleigh office of Dean and talked to him about this to make sure that we were all on the same page. And he agreed with me. While we can reduce the buffers and increase the amount of acres that you can spray on, you still can't put any more water on that land than what will go through it.
Well, we could use the water for some other
That is true.
application.
That is true, but there are two types of systems. There's what they call a conjunctive and a non-conjunctive system. The city of Raleigh's system that he's talking about, they've got a discharge permit. They've got another option to take their wastewater somewhere else. In order for you to do this, you would have to have a non-conjunctive system. In other words, that spray field is the only place that you've got to go. And if you can, you can send the water somewhere else, that's kind of an option. So you don't have a secondary option as far as continuous disposal of your wastewater. So the rules kind of change a little bit based on what you can do. And that's the two systems that they look at.
You say it's conjunctive that Raleigh has?
Yes.
With the conjunctive system, or you say that they basically have a contract with companies
No.
to take their water out?
What I'm saying is they've got an MPS discharge permit. They can take all of their wastewater and discharge it into this road. You don't have that option. In other words,
We don't want that.
and you don't want that option. And, but the reclaimed, anything that they can take away from that is to their benefit. Is to their benefit not only in the amount of discharge, but it's also their benefit in the amount of nitrogen that they discharge into the estuary. But that's how they benefit from that, and that's the two different systems. With a non-conjunctive system, you don't have anywhere else to get it. If somebody can't take it, or if you're going to put it on a golf course, you're going to use it for cooling water or something like that, that's all well and fine. But you don't have another option on a day-to-day, every day, can depend on it. I can put it there.
On so to the soil scientists, if I may. So when we're looking for a different location, an alternative, naturally we should look for Craven. Soil is what we should look for.
I would say look for
Goldsboro.
Goldsboro or Norfolk.
Knowing that they're not.
Well, I mean, there are some Norfolk areas.
Sunbury, I think the Goldsboro, you might have, I didn't bring my book with me, but you don't have any within
get taken care of, right?
Well, it works at a minimal rate. It does. You know, just like the Lenore and the Goldsboro Pier would work, but you get down to
Yeah, it's the depth.
the amount that you can irrigate is so minimal, you know, because it fills up with water fairly quick, and the water has to go and drain. You know, the other options, you know, there are a variety of options while infiltration issues have been discussed. But they're all tied to soils, and they're all tied to the regulations, and yes, the state has really changed those with the implementation of the 2T rules, and they look at nutrients, they look at crop maintenance, and, you know, the runoff factors, obviously groundwater quality. There's so many components now that they look at that previous permits, existing permits, they didn't, and that's why a lot of sites are fairly difficult to get permitted now.
So you said this, at what point are you prepared to send this to Dina? Do you have to do anything else before you send this to Dina?
Well, that's what we're here to talk about tonight, because I've gotten a lot more data on the site. You know, we put in our test wells, we did our deep borings, and I did the numeric water balance. And if we go to Diener and provide this to them, you know, the application rate that they will permit, again, is just a very low number. And so, you know, we're kind of here to talk about it midstream of the process, you know, because again, we're working under a budget, which is for you know, through them. And, you know, I don't want to get at the end of the game and come back and tell you where we are 6 months ago.
Well, the thing about it is, you know, we've incurred costs up to this point. And, you know, if you're at the point where it's submitted to Dina.
I'm not at that point. I've done all the field work, I have all my field data, and I have my water balance calculations, but I haven't gone through the aquifer test, I haven't gone through the reporting, which is another 35 to 45% of my final budget. But I have all my field notes to give you the numbers now, what everything is going to say.
Well, let me ask this question. Mr. Chairman, asking this question for them, with your input, if you would. Knowing that there's an application that goes to Dina, are we better off for the board to talk about alternatives and not send them this report, try to find the alternative? I mean, because they're not requiring us to, they're requiring us to say, here are the soil tests, and here is where we're going with the sewage. So if this is not in our favor, wouldn't it be smart for us to close that file and look at our alternative?
Right, which is kind of, I mean, that's why I'm here tonight.
Yeah.
You know, again, I didn't want to go through all of the final report preparations. I'm kind of giving you a verbal of what the report is going to talk about. And, you know, we do have monitoring wells on the site. You know, we have done a lot of work, but we've got the data in hand to advise to you that the yield at the site is very low. And, I mean, you know, it's not my job to say yes or no. I'm just kind of giving you what the data is showing so a decision can be made. You know, do you want to continue on? Because if you sit down with Dina and they look at this water balance, you know, it's like any other. It's not favorable. And if I say, well, you know, here's 10 for your policy and procedures, here's 10% number we can apply. You know, we want to go with 80% to make it more bang for the buck. You know, Dina's going to say, I don't know about that. You know, that's that gamble. You know, 10% is their steadfast rule, and when you try to go beyond that, it makes it difficult.
We don't need a sewer system to work in.
Again, you know, you would be fighting this from the application rate, but if you go into it knowing that you're only looking at 1,600 gallons a day, then it's a manageable system.
But you're talking about 7.5 acres versus the 14.5 acres that we were talking about last time. And it's, if you're looking at the economics of it, it just, quite frankly, doesn't make any sense.
Well, the thing about it, how much have we spent for this? How much more is it gonna cost for you to complete it? You know, if we spent 80% of what's been budgeted, or 90%, and now we've gotten this far, so we said now we terminate, but we already spent 90% of the budget to have this testing done, this assessment, whatever, and you're talking about another 10% that would get you to Diener. So we're saving 10%. But
Well, not on my end.
No,
Not on my end.
let me finish this. And so now, you know, we've got to go, and we've got to get you a new site. We're going to go back through the whole thing again. And I can assure you, probably what's going to give you is some Lenore, maybe some Craven, but that's all we've got. Now, so the only other option that we have is to look at a different type of plant system, filtration, or reclamation, if you will. And so our options are very limited. Either we go with a more expensive plant that we can do something else with the water except the land application, or we give you another site and we're right back up tossing in the air. That's what I'm saying. If we give you another site that has a different land terrain, a different landscape, you know, we'll be in a little better situation. And, you know, what I'm hearing from you is that I can't guarantee that either.
Again, you know, because when you look at soils and geographic, I made a comment earlier, just how the whole county, the drainage system, the rivers, the swamps, I mean, you know, it's all that balance, and that's where all this water kind of comes and goes to.
The compaction,
Yeah.
if you will, if it were not for the compaction, this same property, you have to guess what difference it would have made?
Well, as far as the deep drainage, that's the testing I did. The compaction is up in the upper layers, which gets back to, back in July, you know, 2 days after rainfall event, you're walking through water that deep.
So without the compaction, you think the water would have still been there?
Oh, yes, sir. Once that topsoil fills up and gets saturated, it has to go through that clay. And that clay is fairly thick. It moves water very slow. It moves water, but very slow. And we measure those rates that water moves through that deeper clay.
Well, Mike, what we need is, you know, you're our engineer. What is going to work? I mean, obviously, we need a spray field. We need a spray field. We need somewhere to put sewage. We need that. Now, what do we need to do as an engineer? What can we do?
We need, if we're gonna stay with land application, we need to look, like I said, even if you go with reuse, and it being a non-conjunctive system, you cannot, or will not permit it for more than the soils will take. The only thing that does to you is expand your available acreage because it reduces the buffers. So, you know, the deep layer of soils, like he's talking about, you know, we don't know until we do that testing what it's going to do.
I know of I've had part of my attention board, there's 44 acres off of the 158 bypass that we have discussed before. I can't call the owner's names right now. That would be a closed session discussion. That is willing to consider using that site and allow us to purchase that right there.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Sure.
make a couple comments? I've listened very carefully to what you've said about these spray fields and about the land and all. After a while, you get to a point where you kind of need to cut your losses. And let's try something else. Now, the reason we have to have a septic system is that we have made a commitment to Meridian. Is there a experimental septic system that we could put out there to serve their needs?
Well, now, my understanding is you have capacity at present to serve Meridian.
Yes, with the condition that we have in process a spray field that we're going to be utilizing for the future. In other words, we've exceeded, we've come to the state 80% use of our existing spray field. In order for them to allow us to go to get to that percent of usage, we have to have something else in place.
I didn't think we were at 80%.
76.4%. What it was calculated to be when Meridian comes on to full capacity. With our current intake and Meridian's projected influence put us at 76.4%. Left us 3.6% of playroom before we hit the 80%. To start planning phase, once you hit 90%, you start construction phase of the thing.
And that was only because they allowed us to use actual data instead of the code requirement.
That is correct.
So
But they let us use that data for our calculations, and once I actually used actual data to calculate it, I inflated that data a little bit, so I wasn't trying to get the bare number. So there is wiggle room in those calculations.
I think you were inflated from 60 to 80, I believe.
66 or 67 was the actual calculation, and we bumped it to 80 because that was a drastic increase, or decrease from 120, which the state projected for a 70-bed facility with laundry.
It's about 25% contingency. And Mike, I think when you were here last time, I asked you if you thought it was economically feasible to continue. And that was when you based it on 10, 15,000, and you were honest and told me you didn't think so at that time.
That's correct.
So now we're down to 1,700, 16 to 1,700. And I have to agree with Commissioner Hopper. We need to cut our losses and move on.
Well, it's, if the decision was that easy, I mean, obviously, there's no recommendation to go forward with this. And I don't disagree with that. But we have to look for alternatives, once you cut this solution, where do we go from here? And that's the decision of the board, because not only does this affect what we're currently doing, we have things in place that if you don't have the spray field going forward, we've got to deal with the grants. Because that's one of the provisions of the grants as well. So it's not just a matter of, we can cut this, no problem. But we can't cut it and say, well, we don't want to go any further. What's our next alternative? What are we going to do next? We have to have something in place.
Well, in my opinion, and the decision is up to you, and that's why we're here tonight, is to tell you where we are. And, the economics, to me, does not make sense. And if, and it's really your decision, do you want to continue on down this path, or do you want to find something else?
I think that's a given. To say that, if it's not going to give us 1,700 gallons a day, and that's a given. You don't have to think about that. But the alternatives is what we have to focus on, and that's where we need your help.
Right. Well, we need to have some options of land to look at, and that's something that we need to discuss. And you mentioned 44 acres, and obviously that's something that needs to be discussed in the closed session, and that's a discussion obviously we need to have. The only thing I can tell you is where we're going right now is not going to work.
Chairman, I think what would be wise to do would be to get us a chart that we can look at looking at the grant dollars, because that does drive the city. Looking at what we spent on the, of the grant dollars, what our obligations are there. Look at that, analyze it, and see what the numbers tell us, and then take whatever alternative, possibly the 44 acres that you have in mind. We'll look at the feasibility of that, what that cost would be, and then put those numbers together and see if it's something that needs to go through.
We've gone down the road of looking at what it's going to cost if we don't follow through with these grants.
Sure.
I mean, it's going to cost quite a bit of money. We've spent one of the grants, I don't know, was it $500,000? One of the grants that we've already spent.
We're drawing down 350,000.
That was your CDBG.
Yeah. And, you know, we got quite a bit of cost there. With the others, I mean, you know, we can put the chart together. But I'm interested in knowing how much have we spent to get this assessment. When we first working on our engineering consultant, from the time we looked at this property, from the time we tested it, what did we budget? And how much have we spent to get to this point?
I don't have that number for you tonight, but we can certainly give it.
Because, you know, if we're going to go down this road, we need some guidance. We need someone to tell us, you know, from the get-go whether you think it's going to work. I mean, I can look at the Lenore soils. I've got a chart telling me that it's wet. It doesn't filtrate very well. I've got all the data. But when someone tells me that you know, it could probably work, that's what I think on. And that's what we were told.
And we, looking at the case at that, we thought it would work until he did his deep wells. We were not aware that it was going to go that way. And so that's the inherent problem that you run into, is that's why you go through this iterative process of permitting the site and going through this different testing. And you don't know until you get there, and you run into a restricted clay layer like he has, where the water will not move, you know, that's what you got. I wish I had a crystal ball.
Well, from what I've seen, you know, many of the engineering firms, you know, they provide alternatives. And I keep going back to the reclamation plant, that you can produce quality water. That's one of the alternatives to having a sewage system where you don't have good spray-filled soils.
And you're right, but again, with it being non-conjunctive, you still cannot put more water than the soils will take.
And I have a question about that type of plant. If that plant was to be an option, would you have to have someone willing to take that before it was built? Would that not be the best interest of the county?
Sure. If you had someone to take it.
When we looked at reclaim, if I may, when we looked at reclaimed water originally, the thoughts were the landscape irrigation around the site, so State Employees Credit Union, it would work for the assisted living facility, the library. It was feasible to run it to community center ball fields and the high school ball fields. They give you acreage and the ability to get rid of reclaimed water. It was going to be an added county expense, especially with it being a school community building. But now we have domestic taps for irrigation for the two sites on the Merchants Commerce Park. The schools could still be an option. But it was, I mean, NESCO was directed in a different direction because we were trying to reduce the cost of getting away from the package plant and looking at just a system equivalent to what we have now, but on a larger scale. And that was our hopes, was to be able to reduce costs versus having to tie up $2.2, $2.4 million in a package plant to get us to reclaim status.
So that's roughly the price tag of reclaim status?
Yeah, that particular one, it was permitted, but again, that was permitted, and there was really nowhere for it to go.
That was designed to cram on the existing site as well as putting another pond and looking at utilizing someone else's existing closed out lagoon. And that was altered, I would say.
Okay, well, looks like we need to make a decision on the direction to go in and the guidance that we give you all as far as what's our next move. I think we need to do that in closed session. Are you all available? Yes. For
Could I ask just one question? I don't know if you're familiar with, in Currituck, they have an assisted living place, and they have a septic system. But
They have it on site.
they have it on site. Is that a possibility for us, since we have a commitment to Meridian?
Don may be able to answer that, because he's very familiar with on-site systems as well, and he can probably answer that better than.
That's a drip system, right? That'll be the drip.
I don't know what fruit is that. But as far as on-site goes, I mean, usually the soil conditions there, you're dealing with the same thing as far as that goes. And there's several different kinds of on-site systems. There's what they call low pressure, you've got drip systems. There's a couple more, there's some more advanced treatment systems that are out there. But again, it all depends on the soils that you're in.
Well, I know the school system, and Joe Duke might be able, we have different systems because we have some schools located in areas that are not very, that are in bad soil areas.
Yes, we have sand filter beds with reverse osmosis disinfection. But,
I know that Buckland, isn't it?
That's a very advanced.
we have, reverse osmosis. We have ultraviolet disinfection. I used to run our, what we're doing is a Texas-style sand filter bed with water pass recirculation on the beds over a certain media type sand.
Well, Joe, it might be good if you could join us in closed session to discuss this.
And also to answer your question then about this on-site system, two things on that. One, on-site is permitted by different state agencies. You kind of start out first with the local health department, so you start out local, and depending upon the flow, depending on the gallons per day, will determine what level of testing you have to do. And but that's a completely different agency. They're not subject to the 2T regs. And when you have like the Craven soils of Lenore, you can kind of get into options where you bring in soil and create a mound, or you do sand line trenches to kind of cut through it. If you have a sand filter discharge, that's actually permitted by the state. This is a different agency within DENR. So there's all these different agencies that govern wastewater, and your options really, you look at the soils, and you look at the surroundings, you look at your overall master plan, and you look at the need. You have to take all that stuff into account to create a bigger plan. But back to the question of, well, can this particular facility go on-site? Those are certainly options that can be evaluated, and it's all related to soils and load rates.
Well, thank you for your honesty.
I want to thank both of you, Mike and Don, for bringing an honest, concise, and very clearly stated report. Thank you.
We'll be here for the process.
All right, our next item would be new business. We have a resolution for appointing Jay Baptiste as review officer. And it's been revised a little bit. It states, whereas, actually, Gates County Board of Commissioners, a resolution appointing a county review officer Whereas North Carolina General Statute 4730.2 requires the Board of Commissioners in each county by resolution to appoint a person to serve as review officer to review plat required to be submitted for review before it is recorded and certified that it meets the statutory requirements for recording. Now therefore be it resolved that effective November 17, 2014, Jennifer Baptiste, County Planner, shall be a review officer pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 4730.2 as amended. In Gates County, adopted 17th day of November, signed by the Board of Commissioners, via the chairman. What is the pleasure of the board?
I move we accept this resolution for county review officer.
Second.
All right, motion second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you. Okay, the next one will be our county holiday celebration approval. I believe that came up in personnel board meeting as well. That the Employee Welfare Committee would like to recommend that the annual Gates County staff holiday celebration be held on December 23rd from 3 to 5 p.m. During this time, all offices will be closed for employees to attend the celebration. If an employee chooses not to attend, they will need to take leave for 2 hours. The committee would like also the board to provide the meat for the occasion.
I don't think that was at personnel board.
I don't think that was at personnel board.
That's the addition.
How much do they need? We did have some concerns. It's a holiday celebration rather than specify the type in case there may have been some issues with that in regards to being of a different religious persuasion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and approve that.
All right, what about it? What are we talking about?
What do y'all serve?
$100.
Is it a hamburger or?
It's based upon what I was told from this committee that presented this to me. It's going to be a potluck. So whatever, I don't know what you have.
They want us to
contributed in the
furnish
past.
something for the potluck. Okay, I can understand that.
What have we done today?
I think in the past 2 years, the board has maybe did hams. I mean, it's been a pretty minimal cost.
I mean, that's not to give the employees.
No, it's to serve.
Okay. Do we want to limit on that?
Well, how many hams you buy?
I'm going to bring that back to us.
What?
We got some time.
Mr. Chairman, I'll recommend
Your motion.
my motion to approve this and have a limit of no more than $100 and being spent on the meeting.
I second that motion.
All right, it's been motion and second that we approve the holiday celebration time for December 23rd and to provide $100 for the cost of the meat for that meal. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you. Not nothing like that in December. Okay, the next item would be the rescheduling of our January 19th Commissioners meeting.
That is Martin Luther King Day, and the offices are closed.
Okay. Is that November the 12th recommendation rather than the 19th? That would be the January 12th.
Well,
No,
then
there's
we'll
not a
meet on
recommend-
January 7th.
Right, there's not a recommendation.
That's right, we meet on the 7th.
We meet on the 7th, and then we meet again on February the 4th. January is
Now,
typically 2 meetings.
let me just throw this out there, and we're just putting it out there to the board. we don't have to have a second meeting by law. That is something we provide as a convenience for citizens as well as take care of the loose ends. Do we want to forego the January meeting? Or do we want to set it for Tuesday is not a good day for me. Wednesday is probably not a good day for many others.
Could we have 2 night meetings? If we want to have 2 meetings in January, if we want to, we could have 2 night meetings, right? Well,
the
first meeting is the day meeting anyway, isn't it?
Right.
Yes.
Sorry about that, it's the second meeting.
That's the one legally required.
Could we just table this until December and, well, I know it's not that, to see, I mean, had to just schedule one that we have on the 7th, and on the 7th, we might know if we need to have another one.
Or we could decide whether or not we're going to have a second meeting, as you said. In other words, not schedule, don't
Not
schedule a
anything.
second meeting for December, but on the 7th, decide whether or not we need. It may be, so we have to have a night meeting.
Do we have a requirement to notify the public if we're not having a meeting? The time frame?
Well, we would just not advertise it. For the second meeting, we're only required to have one meeting.
So that we don't have to do that.
We don't have to.
All right, first meeting.
And we will decide, we'll put that on the agenda, decide if we necessarily need a meeting for the night, for the night meeting. Okay? I think we need to make that a motion that we will not schedule a night meeting for January until we meet on the January 7th, and at that time we'll determine whether or not we need them.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so motion second, all in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, nay. Thank you. All right, our next item. Okay,
Like, maybe go on that.
yes, please. Next item is the RPO request for resolution. County Manager.
Last week at the RPO TCC meeting, there was a recommendation made to the TAC board that a resolution or letter be sent by the December 2nd comment period to the state requesting that Highway 158 east of 17, Highway 168 and 12, Mid-Currituck Bridge be added back into the state transportation plan. They have been removed, so they will not be considered for further consideration of 4-laning or additional improvements. And because these are major corridors for evacuation routes from the beach, especially with the barcode diversion that's currently in place with the state of Virginia, which means that when Virginia closes its borders and evacuates people from Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Hampton Roads area, Virginia residents, once they get the barcode, they are diverted onto 158 through Camden, and they're expected to drive all the way to 95 before they are allowed to enter Virginia. This is also a major corridor, of course, for the transportation from the Outer Banks to the ports in Virginia. TAC did not have a quorum, but since it was just a request, they are requesting that all counties adopt either a resolution or a letter, which you have before you, stating that we are in support of 158 east of 17, 168, and the Mid-Currituck County Bridge be added back into the State Comprehensive Transportation Plan. There's a formatted letter that has been signed by Lori Griffin, who is the TAC chair, as well as a resolution. They both basically state the same thing, just in different formats.
And it basically has overwhelming support.
Yes.
No brainer.
I think it'd be an economic boost, access to the Northeast and North Carolina to the ports, Virginia ports as well.
I make a motion that do we want to send a letter and a resolution to do both?
That's your choice. I'm not sure which other counties were doing this, because like I said, it was brought up last week at a meeting. Angela Welch, who is the regional planning operator for the Albemarle Commission, sent us the letters today.
Well, the first bullet says, if your board would like to follow the RPO and draft a letter/resolution
Okay.
supporting the addition of US 158 east of US 17, US 168, the Mid-Corridor Bridge, please send your letter/resolution to this email address by December 2nd. So
Right.
it would look like it would be,
Well, when I had spoke with her today, or the other day after the meeting, she said either one was fine, or if we wanted both.
all right?
Chairman, I move that we send both letter and resolution on the matter.
A second.
The motion second that we will send the resolution/letters to the designated address, and our county manager will draw it up and
Yes.
we can sign it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you. Okay, our next item is RC&D operation discussion. I believe, Joe Harrell.
Yes, RC&D is facing some decisions that they must make concerning their future. Their operating budget has continued to shrink year after year. They've always been dependent on federal funds. However, those, as everyone's well aware, have continued to shrink. Joe Harrell has been on the board for 2 years. I was appointed. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend their last meeting due to school of government training. But I have spoken with Rodney Johnson, their chair, and he is very concerned about what the direction RC&D needs to take for this coming year. The executive committee, he also spoke with Mr. Harrell. The executive committee of RC&D has met. They will make their presentation on what they feel like RC&D needs to do at their December 2nd meeting, which Mr. Harrell will be attending. I again will be in Chapel Hill and have notified them as such. But Mr. Harrell would like to present a little bit of information about what RC&D does and services they have provided to Gates County.
Good evening. Tonight I come before you on behalf of the representative for the county RC&D, and what I have is a synopsis of RC&D activities. Many of you have been familiar with their activities before. They're a nonprofit, and is in my ag line addressed to the commissioners. Ms. Roundtree had prefaced what RC&D is involved with, and because of the lack of funding from federal and state agencies, they're soliciting all the county members in our region for consideration for continued support for either let RC&D, a few of them in the state and in the country have gone out of business, being that according to the 2-page review letter, the RC&D is a 501c3 organization, not for profit, and they've done a lot of projects in here. In your attachment, I've enclosed some things that they've done by area. We have projects involved with the county that they've done over the years, and with the projects that they've done over the years, there's not been much activity in Gates County. RC&D and some other counties has completed a lot of projects. Other counties have a different number of people on the board. And so we'll go to a review of what we have. On page A1 and A2 on the top of your handout, it's just referred to their mission for land conservation, community development, land management, and water management. And they have a staff that they interact with to get these things completed. Things such as the Merchants Mill Pond canoe launch, the campsites on the creek, things interfacing with the mill pond, and also the Attorney Godwin Memorial Park here in the county, some school projects, some decks, some
drainage projects for the school and the community center they've been involved with. And so what they do, they have a match and they have a grant coordination, being that the county doesn't have, or the schools even have a full-time grant writer for these projects. They provide those services. We are a member at the Tier 1 level, just as a participating member, and then any work that they do is on a fee basis. I did want you to look on the RC&D, according to their history. They have the history of nurturing quality of life for the citizens in this area, and they do this at the same time finding funding and management for the projects that they do. Ms. Reintry and myself are representing members of Gates County on it, and so any county projects come before the board for consideration. They have a project priority list, and anything that they do is voted on, and before any project is considered for completion or enactment, it is budgeted, find out where the funding is, the permits and the things. They are more or less a coordinator of projects. And so on page 4, I have the first couple of pages is the A for the series. And as you'll look through and see where Gates County falls versus the other counties, on page 4, about halfway through the packet, Gates County has received over several years about $800,000 in projects with the matching grant type of protocol for them. And this is a partial list of what's been done in the county. The prior page on A3 is a list of the people that they partner with, or the different agencies that they partner with. And I look at them, I've ran some things through them, by them with the county, through the community center and some county projects, and weighed what they had to offer versus what we needed. And sometimes it was a fit, sometimes it was no funding. And at the time, everything was such a gray area with them that we approached it from a different perspective to not spend money either in consulting or renovating. On page A4, on the top of your packet, this is a study done years ago, not too many years ago, about the projected population growth for our region. It surprised me that Gates County in 15 years is expecting a 21% population growth. The meetings that I've been privy with, it's talked about our geographic location. Time and time again, people that come from out of the area coming through here talk about the positive things that we have to offer. And number one is our geographic location to the port in Virginia, and also the availability of farmland, the favorable living environment that we have. And so in the next 15 years, these numbers are an estimate of where the people in our neighboring counties are going to fare. And it's surprising also, and you can see the trend, that the counties that border Virginia have the highest potential growth rate. And the counties that don't, some of them have negative growth rates. And the one that surprised me the most was Chowan. And Chowan has a lot more infrastructure. It's a small county. It has a lot of tourists and other things to offer, but the growth rate is level out and growing very slow. So Gates is at the top of the pack and the top 3 for potential growth rate. And so in the packet as you review it today and later, the summary is, where is Gates County today? Where will it be in 15 years? Will it be positive or a negative journey for the citizens of our county? And lastly, from the RC&D's request, does the county wish to utilize their resources
and expertise of the RC&D Council. So as you review this, their next meeting is December the 2nd at 6:30 in the evening. And they would like a decision which way the county feels that they're going to go and support them. Right now, we're just at the basic membership level to keep the staff going and keep their people, part-time people plugged in. And they're looking at putting on one full-time person to reactivate it, but that's dependent upon the budget of all the counties in the region. So this is for your consideration. I appreciate your consideration on behalf of RCD. Is there any question?
Well, you said we're at the membership level now. What is our annual cost, or what do we contribute now?
I think it's $750.
$750. Okay, and also, we signed up for a fee basis. In other words, if we have a project, we'll pay them, I don't know whether it's $35 an hour, $50, whatever, for writing grants or whatever. And so what would they expect above the membership level?
They want to know if we will commit to, number one, membership level, number two, projects that are in their area of expertise, if we'll consider them to handle it. And number three is to the level of commitment of, is the county willing to look at options to support them putting on a full-time employee so that they can keep the organization going and not lose their staff or expertise.
And they have
That
not,
number I do not know.
right, that's what I was going to say, I'm sorry. They have not established their fee schedule for next year. The recommendation from the executive committee will be made at the December 2nd meeting, and then that will determine the direction the RC&D takes for the coming year.
All right, so basically tonight, if we say that we support them in going forward, it's not a commitment to say that, we'll sign up. Let's say if the fee is exorbitant, a little bit more than we want to. But, certainly at the 750 level, which we've done in the past, the fee schedule we've done in the past, and we're willing to go forward with consideration of the new, whatever, in county input that they're recommending. We're willing to consider that. It's basically what we're
Right, because they want to know how much support they have from the counties to continue the consideration to stay as the chartered 501c3 to help the counties for what they have such a history for. The financial numbers is not yet determined.
board, it looks like that, they've done some good things in the county, especially when we look at the Richards Congress Center, Richard Millbone. What would be the board's pleasure in providing to our county manager and our representative to let the RC&D agency know that we support them moving forward at our current level, and certainly will consider what the new inputs are for the future.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. Do we already have a budget that we give them anyway? It's in our budget.
750.
Right.
What is the next level up?
We don't know what it's going to be. Like I said, it depends on what the vote is on the second. I believe if I remember the conversation correctly with Chairman Johnson, they currently have enough operating funds for 1 more year. And if the counties and the municipalities and everyone decides that they do not wish to continue working with RC&D and funding them, then they will complete the projects that they have already started this year, and then once the money is gone, RC&D will dissolve.
I think our project's already completed.
Our projects are completed. The thing that I noted, in the projects that we have, everything that the county own or the agencies that own them, they don't have
line item budgeted items for maintenance or rebuilding things. RCD does have the option to come back and help you renovate and or expand or do overhaul maintenance on the facilities that they have already completed. And so that option would come if they stayed alive. But as I said, it's also a regional decision.
Mr. Chairman, I certainly feel like $750 a year, and I don't know just how many years these projects have been going on, but we've had $815,000 worth of projects for $750 a year. That sounds like a pretty good bargain down the line there. And I would certainly say let's at least stay with the $750, stay in the program, and if possible, look at it later on to go up, if maybe in next year's budget.
A motion?
Yeah, I can.
If that's a motion.
Then I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. The motion and second that we'll continue to support our park level and look at possible support at the recommended future level, whatever the board comes up with.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also say that I was involved with building of the canoe launch as a volunteer. I was also in a group of gentlemen from this county that were all volunteers to help with the cleaning of Bennett's Creek after Hurricane Isabel. And we spent many, I'm not going to say many, but we spent probably 4 or 5 different Saturdays up there with chainsaws and ropes and stuff, pulling trees out of the creek to make it canoeable after Hurricane Isabel. And I personally, of course, I was a little bit younger at that time, but I personally enjoyed the experience of being out there doing these things and adding something for our community and the people that visit our community.
In closing, the website that they have is linked to the Mill Pond State Park, which is linked to other tourism, canoe trails and things. And so when you click on the Mill Pond or you click on the Bennett's Creek or the different tourism things and that they completed, it attracts and benefits our county. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
If you notice in the margin, the support that Jay Greenwood gave, who was the park superintendent at Mill Pond, and also up above that is George, who is park superintendent now, and they have very positive remarks about this organization.
That group that I was involved in was called the Stewards of Bennett's Creek. That's the name I couldn't remember at that time. And then it was a group of some people here in the county that were hunters, some that were just canoers. But it was a group of about probably 15 or 20 people that got up there and helped do those projects.
And it's a beautiful canoe ride.
All right. All right, next item, we have Ms. Kenny Drake come forward. Kenny is deserting us.
Which way?
Yeah, whatever. I was
Oh,
gonna-
no, get out the way. Get off.
Ken, on a personal level, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And a journey to working for 6 years and I've been here, and this is your 8th year, and you've chosen not to go forward. I wonder why. But Ken, on behalf of Gates County, the Board of Commissioners, we want to present to you this plaque in recognition of 8 years of dedicated service to Gates County as a Gates County Commissioner from 2006 to November 2006 to November 2014. Ken, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Words?
I think I'll go to the podium. I think I'll go to the podium for his words.
I'm gonna stand right here. I'll just flip it around. I certainly like to thank everyone that has supported me in the last 8 years. And I know some of them probably didn't agree with some of the things and the way the votes went and those type of things. But I really hope and feel like, personally feel like I've done and voted for some good things for the county. I certainly hope that our board here continues the great things that they're doing. And I certainly hope our new commissioner that comes on in December will do the same. And I feel certain that he will. He's from the county, he loves the county, and he wants to see good things for the county. And I thank everybody that supported me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item, we have more citizens comments. Okay. Commissioners' comments.
No, you go first. Well, I just want to say I have enjoyed serving with this brother to my left here. And it really has been, we've had some good times sitting here. We've moved around from chair to chair for the 4 years I've been here. But I've always enjoyed having Kenny the time he's been to my left where I can lean over and say something to him privately. But Kenny, it has been good, the insight that you brought to the board. I really appreciate. I can tell you that when we dealt with some things that have had some history, it was very helpful to have somebody here who came along in those 8 years that could shed some light on some things. We're going to miss you, and I agree. I think replacement coming on board, big shoes to fill. We'll just bring him along.
Shoes aren't very good.
Thanks, Ken.
I want you to go next.
Well, Commissioner Journey has always been to my right, so I don't feel odd not to have you to my right. I have certainly enjoyed working with Kenny over the last 2 years. If you have noticed, he's a man of few words, but they are succinct and to the point, and I do appreciate that. And it's a great loss to our board for him leaving us, but I do think Mr. Freeman will do a good job. And I expect to see you right there, keeping an eye on us.
I plan to be out there sometimes.
Sometimes. But it has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I've enjoyed my year with you also on here, and I'm just thinking about the story you told us a few times when you came here. I forgot the number of years ago, 30-some years ago, I think it was, that you had planned to come and stay for a little while and move on, but you got stuck.
I got stuck here.
Can't move anymore.
But it's a great place to live.
I appreciate your service and the dedication that you've shown to this.
All right, thank you. Well, first of all, I thank everyone for being here tonight and staying through the meeting and seeing what's been discussed and all the input that's been given. Again, Ken, I thank you for the service, and I enjoyed, again, working with you for these 6 years. But the only thing I say is now I'm the oldest board member on the board.
No, you're not.
Well, not the oldest board member, the oldest server. Okay, Billy, thank you. But I'm the oldest, longest one now, so you turned that over to me. But we do intend to carry on the legacy that you have helped establish for this board, and we really appreciate your service. Other than that, we will need to have a motion to go into closed session.
Before you do that, I didn't finish my comment yet. I look out here, thank everybody that's coming, and I have to do that, because when I look out there, 3/4 of them are on my side of the world.
And he rubs that in every time.
Thank you.
All right. Now, motion.
Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All right, so motion to go into closed session. Yes, sir.
Would you mind, as a matter of public record, state why you're going in closed session and what the stated purpose and what statute for the record, please?
Yes, indeed, that's what I'm going to do. We're going to closed session in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11, A3, and 4. 3 is legal, 4 is economic development, and 5 is real estate. We have to discuss, and 6, personnel. We have to discuss land issues that will require discussing names of potential landowners and enter into potential agreements that we'll have our attorney and whatever to talk about. So those are things.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor? Aye? Aye. All opposed? Nay. Yes. Any motion to come out of closed session?
Second.
All right, been motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, we have, our first item is, we need a motion to authorize our engineer and soil scientist to proceed on the option of the spray field in contact our local health authority to see the feasibility of utilizing the area as discussed in closed session.
So moved. Second.
All right, motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, second item is to authorize the county manager to contact the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission to get information needed to turn over to our county attorney that they can make a recommendation to the board.
So moved. Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And the third item is authorize the county manager to look at dispositioning of cell phone in regards to an employee being able to retain a phone when they retire.
So moved. Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Sorry, you get that?
I would like to request that when we call for a motion to adjourn, that Commissioner Journey give that motion.
All right.
Yeah.
The last one.
That's all right.
All right.
Another motion, because I can have that signed.
Can we get it?
Maybe we have a second one.
All right, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed,